The cold wind howled through the streets of New York as Donald Trump stepped out of his limousine, adjusting his coat against the chill. He had just finished a high-profile meeting and was heading to his hotel when something, or rather, someone, caught his eye. A frail woman sat hunched on the sidewalk, her hands trembling as she clutched a cardboard sign. Her face was worn, lined with years of hardship, but there was something familiar about her. Trump paused, narrowing his eyes. Then, in a flash, he recognized her. She wasn't just any homeless woman, she was his old classmate from school. The memory hit him like a jolt. Once she had been full of life, brimming with ambition. Now she was lost in a sea of strangers, unnoticed, forgotten. A wave of emotions surged through him. How did this happen? And more importantly, what was he going to do next? Trump's mind raced as he stood there, frozen in disbelief. He couldn't reconcile the image of the vibrant young woman from his school days with the frail figure before him now. Her name was Emily, a bright, talented girl who once had dreams of changing the world. They'd shared classrooms, exchanged notes, and even laughed together at lunch. She was the last person he expected to find on the streets. As memories flooded back, Trump wondered what had happened to her. How did a woman with so much promise end up here, huddled against the bitter cold? Was it a twist of fate, a string of bad luck, or something deeper? Passers-by rushed along, oblivious, while Trump stood rooted in place, grappling with his emotions. He took a step closer, trying to make sense of the situation. Emily looked up, her eyes meeting his, confused, weary, yet still holding a flicker of recognition. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city's noise faded into the background as Trump searched Emily's face for answers. He could see the hesitation in her eyes, the way she shifted uncomfortably, as if unsure whether to acknowledge him. Then, almost in a whisper, she said his name. Donald. Her voice was weak, but the surprise in it was unmistakable. Trump nodded, still trying to process what he was seeing. Emily, is it really you? She let out a dry chuckle, shaking her head. What's left of me? The weight of those words hit him hard. He crouched down, ignoring the stares of onlookers, and asked, "What happened to you?" Emily sighed, staring at the ground. Life happened. She hesitated before adding, "But you wouldn't understand." Trump frowned. "Try me." She studied his face for a long moment before finally saying, "It's a long story." Trump stayed silent, waiting for Emily to continue. She took a shaky breath, her fingers tightening around the tattered blanket draped over her shoulders. "I had a good life once," she began. "A job, a home, a future. But things don't always go the way we plan." Her voice wavered, and Trump could sense the weight of the years behind her words. He didn't rush her. He just listened. "I lost my job during the recession," she said finally. "Then came the medical bills. My savings ran out faster than I thought. One bad break after another, and here I am." She gestured around her, as if the streets themselves told the rest of the story. Trump exhaled slowly, his mind reeling. He had seen hardship before, but never this close. "You have no one?" he asked. Emily gave a bitter smile. Not anymore. For the first time in a long while, Donald Trump felt something unfamiliar, helplessness. Trump's mind raced, but before he could speak, Emily looked away, her expression shifting. She seemed uneasy, as if she had said too much. Something wasn't adding up. "There's more to it, isn't there?" he asked, his voice firm but gentle. Emily hesitated, then let out a slow breath. "I wasn't just unlucky, Donald. Someone took everything from me." Trump narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" She looked around, as if checking for someone, before lowering her voice. "I trusted the wrong people. I was working on something big, something that could have changed lives. But I got shut out. I lost everything overnight, and when I tried to fight back, they made sure I disappeared." Trump's pulse quickened. This wasn't just bad luck. This was something bigger, something intentional. "Who did this to you?" he asked. Emily met his gaze, her voice barely above a whisper. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Trump's jaw tightened. He had seen and heard a lot in his life, but something about Emily's words unsettled him. He leaned in closer. Try me. Emily glanced around once more, her voice low. It was a corporation, powerful people. They took my research, wiped my name off everything, and when I pushed back, they made sure I had nothing left. Trump frowned. What kind of research? She hesitated, then whispered, affordable housing solutions. Ways to help people like me get back on their feet. You need to be careful, Donald, she warned. If they did this to me, they won't hesitate to come after you. Trump studied Emily, the weight of her words sinking in. He had faced tough battles before, but this felt different, personal. He couldn't just walk away. You're not invisible, Emily, he said firmly. Not to me. She blinked, as if those words were something she hadn't heard in a long time. Without hesitation, Trump reached into his coat, pulling out a business card. This isn't charity. You have something worth fighting for. Let's get you back on your feet. Emily hesitated, her fingers grazing the card before taking it. A flicker of hope crossed her face, small but real. As Trump stood, he knew this wasn't over. He had the power to uncover the truth, to right a wrong. Emily looked up at him, a hint of her old fire returning. Thank you, Donald. He nodded. It's not over yet. And with that, the wheels of change were set in motion.